This is Josh and Jay's Excellent Video Game Show.
Hello and welcome to a very spooktacular episode of the Josh and Jay Show featuring Roe and Kaiser. I am your co-host Joshua. I am joined as always
by your co-host Jay, and we are joined as always
by Rowan. Hi.
By Rowan Coco Kaiser.
They call him the Feech.
Call him the Feech.
The Coco Feech.
Rowan, has anybody called you the Feech?
Brad Galloway does sometimes.
Oh, then we've done our job.
Rowan, would you like to introduce our very special guest for this very special Halloween edition of the Josh and Jay Show featuring Rowan Kaiser?
We have from the exotic climes of Berkeley, California.
Ooh,
joining us
scary.
is Caroline Pettit or Petite?
Well, it's Carolyn Pettit.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, of course, right. Thank you. Yeah. Our French heritage would dictate that it would be petite, but, we've been Americanized for generations.
French-Canadian?
We don't go in for it. No, French from France.
Okay.
We don't go in for any
That's
of
my
that.
favorite kind of French.
I love how Jay's making everything spooky. Now Berkeley's spooky.
Yes.
Spookly.
Yes.
This is our Halloween episode.
Yeah, it is. Happy pre-Halloween.
We're all in costume, unless you're watching on video.
Yeah.
I'm a gator.
Stop calling me things. So you just want to? What do you feel like starting with? You want to wrap up some Ethan Carter? You want to? We had started Ethan Carter last episode, and I think Rowan and I have finished it since.
I haven't
we have not
finished.
Oh, we did talk about it in the show, but I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah,
that sounds right. Carolyn, have you played The Vanishing of Ethan Carter?
So I played like the first hour of it or so, and I thought it was visually quite beautiful. I was finding the storyline to be kind of like B-tier Dean Koontz-y.
Yeah,
like
you do.
Yeah, like you're a detective. You're named like Paul Prospero or something
Prospero.
like. Which just sounds kind of ridiculous.
It does sound either like a cheesy detective from like a 90s adventure game.
Exactly.
Or potentially an 80s stand-up comedian.
But,
Can I ask you a very important question?
Yeah, sure.
In that first hour, when you first start the game,
Yes.
did you walk around and find all of these traps?
The booby traps.
And you found them all?
Well, I don't know if I found
Did
them all.
anything happen?
Not that I remember.
That's right.
there was not a clearing filled with skulls.
There was no clearing filled
You
with
didn't
skulls.
time travel or anything weird happened? Or okay. So you
Not that
just
I
went on your
recall.
merry way, follow the railroad tracks, right?
I mean, I felt like I was somewhat thorough in poking around in that area, but yeah, no, at a certain point, I'm like, well, I guess I don't really know what the point of all that was, but
Yeah.
I guess I did that, so I'm moving on.
Well, I can't wait to hear the rest of. I can't wait to hear the rest.
No, so the story thing is what's getting me. I haven't quite finished it, but it's like,
Where are you? Well,
I think I've done 4 or 5 of the. I think they're like 6 puzzle sequences.
Where you piece together
the sequence. You put things in sequence.
Yeah.
There are there are about 5 of those total.
That's fun. I like
think.
that part.
5
It's
or
fun,
6.
but it also reminds me of like old high school assignments, like where it would just list like the 6 biological facts in order, and like you have to demonstrate your basic understanding of the logic by putting them in sequential order.
Put these historical eras of the dinosaurs in chronological order.
So like there's this interesting thing where like the only thing you do in the game is kind of find the information and put it together, and like the way that the whole finding the information thing is presented is really cool. The world is gorgeous and big and
Too big.
but too big perhaps. But the actual information that you find, like your reward, is stupid. Like it's like
I don't think. I find that the game I'm playing doesn't match the world I'm exploring.
right.
Yeah,
It
that's
does
a
not
very good
need
way of putting
a
it.
big ass, beautiful Skyrim world. It could be little set pieces. I think.
It's sort of
like
like
Walking Dead.
it's sort of like the game is like a 72 Pinto, but somehow they put the hood ornament from like a Jaguar on it and maybe some rims, and like they're like, here's this, look how cool this car is.
Sure. I felt like I wanted to go talk to townspeople and get quests.
Yeah. It really feels a lot like Skyrim, and I think that is like where it sort of falls down, is that like Paul Prospero starts talking about all the demons they could be summoning at one point, and it's like, this is not something I have any context for. Like, if you drop this in as a Skyrim mod, that could be all the Skyrim gods or whatever. There would be like some sort of connection to anything there. So, like, the overall plot just like keeps losing me every time it goes into that. But I like wandering around and clicking on things.
Yeah, it is a fun game, or a nice game to wander around. Like, it's very comfortable, which is also sort of weird and kind of goes against the whole like feeling of the story that you're playing through. Like, are you really supposed to feel like you're taking this beautiful stroll through like like there's a graveyard you walk through, and I'm like, man, this is gorgeous. I'd like to crack open a bottle of wine, have some cheese, a little
polygons
right
is this thing? This is
it's very tranquil, the atmosphere of the game, which does seem to run contrary to the mood it's trying to foster. But also, on a technical level, it is like...
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's like, it's the first game... I don't play games on my PC too often, but it's the first game I've played... My PC's a few years old now, where I've had to knock it down from like the highest settings just to get it to run properly, because those trees, my PC is chugging trying to render all those trees.
My only note for this game, for when we eventually talked about it, was that Dragon Age, The Witcher, Skyrims, they no longer have any excuse for the distant land to look like garbage.
Yeah,
you know how it always looks like real trashy out in the distance. This one looks great no matter how far you look.
You can change that actually in the settings.
To make it look bad?
Well, no, not to make it look bad, but that I forget what it's called, but there's a setting that you can adjust just like what the draw distance is for those objects. So it's not that they look bad, they disappear.
Oh, right. Well, that's fine
the
too.
Background.
But in Skyrim and stuff, they look bad. Though, to be fair, I'm rocking a pretty heavy-duty setup with this game.
When are you not?
I don't know.
I mean,
I just mean everything was turned out all the way.
His laptop for the show last week was not pretty heavy duty.
Well, I mean, we do what we have to in the interim, in between
jobs,
in between MacBook Pros.
Yeah, I can't afford a MacBook Pro, but my job gives me a MacBook Pro. That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Until they take it. And then you say...
This is why you never leave your jobs.
I know. I was like, can I keep it? I said, no.
Anyway, getting back to Ethan Carter real quick. I did finish it the other night, and I don't know why I didn't just sit down and play through this game in one or two sittings, because it's very easy to do that.
Yeah, it's not very long.
It's not. And the puzzle, some of the puzzles are pretty complicated. Like, for instance, that crazy house where you have to switch the rooms around. There are doorways, and you have to activate them in order to decide which room they should actually... You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, because I talked to you about this, because I said...
that's the one that you just game fact your
way
right through.
two that one and another one that I just did. I was like, I'm not doing this. But you said you went into your... you did the Sherlock Holmes... oh my God, what did you say? I was like, did you write down and take notes and like draw pictures for all the doorways?
Oh, no, you're right. I went into my mind palace for that. I did. I did the full-on, like, I could picture in my head the layout of the whole house after I started getting some of the rooms together. And so while I was moving around, I could, like, mentally picture how... No, if this is the room here, like, that's an impossible staircase, or that's an impossible window. And
I feel like that's kind of what I did intuitively. Like, I didn't have too much trouble with that once I figured out what it was doing.
I didn't attempt it.
Yeah.
I just said, this is bullshit, and looked it up.
on a narrative level, like, like my former colleague, Sean McInnes at GameSpot, he reviewed the game, and I think he said that when he finished it once, like, he immediately wanted to go back and play through it again. I guess maybe... Did you feel like it's that kind of story where are you going to get stuff out of it the second time that you didn't the first time? or
Actually,
anything?
no. Actually, I did not feel like that. I felt like it was. I felt like the story itself was what. There's a moment. Sorry, let me back up a little bit. There's a moment in every adventure game where I feel like you realize that the story potential either does not live up to the hype in your imagination, or it does. And I mean, let's face it, the majority of them do not. This game, you hit that point for throughout almost the entire game. I was waiting to be, I guess, to realize whether or not that was going to happen. It didn't happen right away. Like, I had to play through the whole game and got almost to the end before I realized, oh, this is not living up to any sort of expectation that I had hoped an adventure game like this would live up to. I'm sorry, that's a very sloppy way of explaining it.
No, that makes sense. I did not enjoy this game. So that's one of the reasons why I just jumped to GameFAQs. I was like, I'm going to finish it for some reason, but I did not enjoy it. And then I thought, oh no, I hate adventure games. They were right about me. But then I played Sherlock Holmes and really, really, really liked it.
The newest one?
Yeah.
What's it called? Crimes
and Punishments?
Crimes and Punishments.
Which I keep wanting to change in my head to like Crime and Punishment.
Of course.
Yeah, so that game seems pretty interesting.
Yeah.
In that you really seem to be able to determine, who's the suspect you're going to choose, and like sometimes even okay, well, you figured out that they did it, but do you even want them to be punished for it because maybe they were justified in their actions, kind of thing?
It's true. It deals with some moral ambiguity.
Seems pretty fascinating.
To be sure.
I've only done the first case, and I know that when I pieced together how I thought it went down at the end, because you kind of pieced it together yourself, I was unsure. I really doubted whether I was on the right track or not.
So, quick question back at Ethan Carter before we go full Holmes. Sherlock's
You never
home.
go full Holmes.
No, just half Holmes. We'll just go half Holmes.
Did you guys get killed by a zombie?
Oh, once.
Yeah, in Ethan Carter.
Yeah. Yes.
It was like, there's just a straight up zombie that kills you. Like, you can't be here yet.
I did not know that was a thing that could happen in that game.
Yeah.
That was the other one I GameFAQs the thing, because I was like, no, I don't want to figure this out.
Those two things that you GameFAQed were that speaks very much to you were not liking adventure games, because those are the two most adventure game ass things in that game.
Yeah, maybe. It just seemed like this is a giant chore, and I didn't feel like doing a giant chore.
I thought I just wasn't supposed to be there yet, and decided to go solve puzzles somewhere else, and eventually found myself out in solving the puzzle of the dude who stabbed himself with the scissors. And
I don't think there is any order that you have to solve the puzzles in necessarily.
Oh, okay.
I think you can go off and explore whatever, whichever puzzles in whichever order.
Yeah, because you said you finished it, right? And you never found all the traps?
No. I started over.
Okay, and then you found all the
Because
traps?
I'd obviously missed some gameplay mechanic in this game that I did not understand that you...
Hey, this is a narrative game that does not hold your hand.
Yeah.
Josh.
That's right. It totally says
Yeah, it
that.
says that, yeah.
Oh,
That's one way of putting that.
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
No, because
You're going to have to GameFAQ this.
the traps sort of make you realize, okay, like every time you find a new trap, that little glowy thing gets bigger, and sort of I found them all because it opens up all the way and something happens. That never happened for me, so I didn't know if I was doing it right or what I was doing or what was supposed to happen with that little glowy thing. or what, so.
It's very clever if you get it.
Yeah.
But it's very easy not to get.
Well, I just saw clearly this game wants me to go down these railroad tracks, and I just went down the railroad tracks, so I never did the traps.
Too much Half-Life.
I know.
Well, that's
good design if you wanted me to go down the railroad tracks.
right. Exactly.
Well, they do want you to go down the road, but because it's an adventure...
First, they want you for no reason to just wander around that area
it's
blindly.
not. It's not for no reason. It's for the reason that it's an adventure game.
Or it's a JRPG where you have to go down every path, find the treasure chest, and then go down the railroad tracks.
See, I did not feel like it was like any of those.
Well,
it's not really.
The other part about it is that
in an adventure game, you're in a room. Of course, you're going to pixel hunt the room or whatever. But this is Skyrim. I have to walk around the whole fucking world.
See, that's where you're wrong,
Try to
because
find a
it
trap.
gives you the impression that it's Skyrim, but when you actually explore
big.
around the
Too
area.
big, too big.
It gives you a very fenced-in region.
Fenced in,
to
not
explore.
very fenced in.
It's very fenced.
It's pretty
in.
big.
It's not as big as it
It's
seems.
a big fence. Okay.
It's a big. That would be. I don't know how. It'd be a lot of acres. A lot of acreage.
It looks like a lot of acreage, but I bet if
I have wandered the perimeter of it.
I bet if you looked at a map of the area, the entire area as it's illustrated, and the entire area as you can actually interact with it, I bet those are way
There's
like
still
one is way smaller
It's
than the other.
subjective.
There's still
I-
some-
yes, it is. I
not
think it's
subjective.
big. Big.
This is
Subjective.
actually one of the
No.
only things that is objective in the game is
That
like the
it's
amount
big?
that the amount of space you can walk around is finite and small.
But
No, you're not. Finite is different than small or big.
But in
A
this
lot
game,
of the spaces you can walk around are not. There's nothing to do in them.
Absolutely.
So like, you go down the railroad tracks, and you're supposed to just kind of like slightly go around them and go to the next thing.
Yes.
But there's a whole space that diverges off, and there's this big old forested area here. Sorry about the bumps. That like there's nothing there. You're supposed to keep going down the railroad tracks, but there's this huge thing here with no puzzles, no nothing. It's just kind of pretty to walk.
what other adventure game has that?
There are some that have like randomized areas and that kind of thing, but
I mean,
they're usually part of the puzzle.
part of
if
the
they do that.
exactly. There's a reason to be
but
in that.
but this
space.
is sort of cool because this is kind of the evolution of
None of us
adventure.
like this game.
Okay, never mind.
I think it's pretty good.
Shut it down.
I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10.
What?
Like an 8 out of 10.
I'm with you. You know what?
No,
Jay?
you're not. You cut me off
I'm
at
now,
every turn. You're
I'm
not
now,
with me.
I'm now with you.
You're with yourself.
If I played Ethan Carter 2,
You're an army
I would
of
walk
one.
the fuck around every square inch of that game.
No, you would run the fuck around.
No,
because
I
there's a
did-
run button.
Right, and it's not attached to Stanima. That was the other thing that was dope about this game. There's no Stanima meter. You can run.
Stanima.
Stanima.
What do you say?
Stanima.
I'm from
You
Northern
mean-
California.
You mean stamina?
We say Stanima.
That's not correct.
We say hella Stanima
Yeah, you do say hella stamina.
and schizophrenic.
Yeah, schizophrenic. That's true.
I think
forgot about that.
I think
one.
there's a new drop for you.
No, but what I was going to say, not just about Ethan Carter, but also about your beloved Sherlock game.
Yes.
That
Crimes and Punishments.
which I don't know if you noticed, also does this thing where it gives you what looks like a much bigger world to walk around than you can actually walk around in.
Yes.
And
You
by
can't walk around in it.
well, yeah, you can, but it's
No,
a
it
very
looks like you
limited
can,
area.
But you can't.
Okay. Anyway.
What area?
It gives you this very limited space to move around. I mean, if you can't walk, then how is he going to look at anything?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
That's
I'm
Sherlock
only-
Holmes has a regular adventure game amount of space. You have like a part of a street and a part of an alley, and that's where all the shit goes down and all the clues are, and you just fucking hang out in that spot and you go somewhere else. It looks like you can go over there, but you can't. And Ethan Carter, look, you can fucking go over there. It's you can go really far in that game.
Yes, you're right.
I walked for like a half an hour in that game and ended up in some cave before I ever even found the traps.
Yeah.
No, wait.
That's big.
Okay.
Is it?
No, I'm gonna stop trying to make my point
You
because
can
it's
make
not.
it anytime you want, you know.
I've tried a couple times.
Try again.
Didn't work. Didn't work.
That's
too well.
not my fault.
Shame
You can't
on,
make your point.
Shame on. Fool me once. Shame on me. Or
You said you
however
could
that
walk
goes.
around in Sherlock Holmes. Correct.
You're right. I said that.
What'd you say?
Moving on.
No, let's do this.
Let's
What I was trying to get at
talk
is
Final
that.
Fantasy if you want revenge.
Oh God! I'll see you guys next week.
I just don't want you to feel like you can't make your point.
Well, the only reason I feel like I can't make my point is that you interrupt with a different argument before I can actually tell you what I'm getting at, which is that in previous Sherlock games you could walk around a much bigger area, and Ethan Carter you can walk around a large area, but it funnels you from sort of site to site. So when you're walking like way far away, like you said, you cover a pretty far distance, but but it's actually through a corridor. Like, there are trails that you can only deviate from so far. And what I was trying to say before is that if you could see those areas on a map where you can actually move, they look like very small corridors that you can move
Sure,
through.
it would look like the map on KOTOR or something like
so
that.
it's sort of fooling your brain into thinking that it's this big open world when in fact it's nowhere near.
Right, Jay, I know it's not actually Skyrim. I'm just saying the amount of space you can walk around in
But it
is
didn't
too
sound like
large.
you did know that.
No, of course. It's too large. It's too big for what it's trying to do. And in a game like Sherlock, you're also gated. You can't get to the next area because you need an item, and you have to touch that item to some other fucking item before it'll let you go
Sherlock
through. So it's
Sherlock.
this game doesn't. I think this game would benefit from gating you into an area until you've solved whatever needs to be solved.
So
Right. Yeah, you
That
can
makes
you
sense.
can waste a whole lot of time
Yeah.
thinking, okay, well, I don't need to be in this area. I can move on,
Right.
and then find that you actually do have to go back, and so
Right.
yeah, it confuses you about the kind of like whether you're actually making progress or
For sure.
not. Whereas in a game like Sherlock, that it's much more structured and it's much more clear that you are actually advancing through the
Yeah,
game.
and I know it's not actually like as big as Skyrim. I'm just saying I think it's too big.
But what? Okay,
feels
fair,
unfocused.
fair enough.
Kind of.
What I'm saying is that as adventure games have evolved from a 2D landscape to a 3D landscape, these are issues that
Sure.
the developers have to deal with. And
Yeah.
Sherlock is solving that problem I think very well in the newest one by giving you a very confined area, much more so than like the Sherlock game that came right before it.
I never played that one.
I know you didn't, or the one that came before
So
that.
I don't believe you.
Jay is the Sherlock expert, just so you know. He's played every single one of them and loves them
He
all,
loves Sherlock.
So
except for the one that he doesn't like.
right.
It's his Final Fantasy, basically.
That's cool. I've never played that. I'd be interested to see if it really is, as you say.
Well, whatever you do, don't believe me.
I don't.
I know. It's obvious.
If you think Ethan Carter is like a Final Fantasy 13 corridor, then I don't believe you about Sherlock Holmes.
I did not compare anything to Final Fantasy.
Well, you know,
I mean, I know that sounds just like me to compare stuff to Final Fantasy, but I think you're just pulling shit out of your ass.
no, Final Fantasy is a game
That's where it comes from, Jay.
the cool corridor thing, like people really didn't give a shit about corridors till Final Fantasy 13 came out. But the whole thing with Final Fantasy 13 was that rather than having a lot of options on which way to go, if you looked at the maps, they were just like these long straight corridors.
Okay, well,
and that's how you're sort of describing.
somehow I'm familiar with the concept without ever having played Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, it's similar to what you're saying. There's choke points that open up into little kind of
okay.
areas that you hang
Translate
out
it into your head however you need to, Josh.
I think it makes sense what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay.
Not to me, but
Well, I know
as
you
long
get
as
real
you get it
defensive when we
now.
talk about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I'm going to build a fence.
So you're trying to get Jay defensive?
No, I'm trying to talk to him about what he's talking about, but it's
That's the
being
only
difficult.
fence I need is defense.
No points. All right, scariest moments in games.
Reader emails.
What?
Yeah, what just happened there?
Reader emails?
You got joshed.
Do you want to keep... I'm sorry, you keep saying you're done.
I don't know what you're talking about. I am done.
Okay.
Ethan Carter, good for some people, not so good for others.
Ethan Carter, don't play it if you hate Skyrim.
That's the box quote.
Like Skyrim with nothing.
Yeah.
Well, you have a list. I see you have a list.
I don't know. I don't know what you guys want to do. You're talking about doing emails. Rowan's talking about starting this other thing. So I'm.
The thing that the emails is that thing. We asked the readers to send in their spookiest moments in games, or we asked the listeners or whatever they are.
Jay, what's your
The
spookiest
peons.
moment in a video game?
I don't. I don't remember saying anything about the spookiest moments, but I think it was like favorite moments, favorite horror moments.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Something Halloween-y moment.
It was like scary stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, I remember you texted me. You were like, "What's your scariest video game? Favorite or top 5 scariest video games?" Was our original plan, and then we kind of narrowed it. We broadened it to like moments.
And to any game,
To any game.
like as long as they're, yeah.
Right, because I was thinking there's that Vampire Masquerade.
Yeah.
There's that haunted house.
The haunted house.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unforgettable.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, the Ocean House.
Can I just lay down my initial trump card here? So the scariest moment in games, or Halloweeniest, or spookiest, is when you're playing Doom, and you're in one of those little tight corridor mazes, and you hear the demons going,
Oh, yeah.
and you know that they're there, and you're gonna turn the corner, and they're gonna bite you, and you don't know which corner it is, and you don't know how many of them there are.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
God. You
That's
just gave me Minecraft nostalgia, or a Minecraft like moment just then.
And it's like almost every like spooky horror game since then just depends on that sort of Doom style sound design and the layout of there's something around that corner, and you're the one who's going around the corner, and it's gonna bite you,
Yeah.
and you just can't know exactly when,
And you just hear it.
and you just hear it.
That's a good one.
In Minecraft, you spend your first day, you don't really have anything yet, so you kind of dig down, and you're just in the dark all night listening to zombies. That's a good one too.
That is a good one. I jotted down a bunch just as they came to mind. They weren't necessarily the scariest moments, though. They were just my favorite. But one of them was in the Mass Effect 2 DLC Project Overlord, which is kind of like a weird little lawnmower man kind of
the AI.
survival horror mini thing.
Yeah.
The first time that like you get that jump scare from the computer being like in your face and creeping down dark hallways, like I thought that was a really cool like atypical Mass Effect moment. Like it's pretty different than the way the rest of that game feels. Like very different like tone and atmosphere, and I thought they did a pretty good job with that. Like doing a Mass Effect version of a little like mini horror story.
Yeah.
But also Jacob's loyalty quest has some pretty strong horror elements, and also some pretty strong creepy misogynist
Is that the one with the
elements.
cult?
It's the one with the like planet that has the thing that takes over people's brains so
Yeah.
they become zombies.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's not quite a cult, but
They don't they're not
wasn't there a
quite
zombie? There was a leader.
they're not quite zombies. They just become very like it deteriorates their
free will basically.
yeah, it's sort of like what makes them like normal people. Like they lose their speech function, and they sort of all the functions that like make you a social being start to deteriorate. And so it's because of the food.
Yeah, the
on the
fungus
planet.
that grows on the planet
Right.
is edible, and
it has this weird effect. And you find out that Jacob's dad has been
He's like the leader, though, right?
he's the leader because he's like hoarded all the food for himself, so he's the only one whose brain has remained 100% intact, and he's been like taking advantage of all of the rest of the crew. Basically, it's more of a Twilight Zone episode.
It does have
anything.
it does have a very creepy atmosphere as you're like
Yeah.
getting up to him, where you're like finding all the logs and the sedated zombies or whatever are attacking you.
Oh, wasn't there a creepy little Fallout thing where you go into the simulator and you go back in time to that little town, and you are like you're a little kid that kills everyone? or
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
you butcher
that's
them?
in Fallout 3. That's one of the plot
Yeah.
missions.
It's
Yeah.
you there's a little simulator, and you hop in this like simulator
Leave It to Beaver
capsule thing.
neighborhood.
Yeah, and it brings you to it's like a little cul-de-sac, and you go from house to house, and there are a bunch of different ways you can deal with that whole scenario, but one of them is like sneaking around and killing everyone and then making them think that it was somebody else. And I don't know, that was weird though. It was very weird and cool.
Yeah,
That was a good
because it was
Twilight
from the
Zone
perspective
sort of
of like a little kid. You were actually like
Yeah, they
shorter.
zoomed you down.
A game that I think about a lot when I think about scary games is Eternal Darkness, and I don't think Eternal Darkness is actually particularly scary as a game, right? But what I liked about it is,
I had that game on my list too.
yeah, I mean, I like that it treats the idea of a game not functioning properly as scary, because I
Yeah.
realized there when I encountered that in Eternal Darkness that it's actually those like completely inadvertent times when a game doesn't work properly that sometimes get into my head and creep me out the most. Like I have this really vivid memory of being a kid, and like I think because I'd seen Tron and stuff, like I had this weird thing where I would like invest in video games as kind of real, you know, like in my imagination they would take on like some kind of reality, and so, but I was playing like Pac-Man on an Atari 5200, which was a lot closer to the arcade version than on the Atari 2600. And for some reason, once when we fired it up, Pac-Man was all like distorted and huge and like really just pixelated and chunky, and it was just, and to me as a kid, like it was horrifying because I had like bought into the Pac-Man as like looking and functioning a certain way, and suddenly it was like completely fucked up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it like totally chilled me, and like and still to this day, like if I'm playing some game with like character models or whatever, and just a character's facial texture maybe doesn't like load properly, it's like really unsettling to me because then I start feeling like it seeps into my perception of the real world, and I'm worried that like I'm gonna go see a friend or something and her face is like this
her nose doesn't load.
Yeah, it's like something like Cronenbergian like body horror shit where like, oh my god, like someone's face just might not load properly.
That
or
happened
whatever.
to me today. I had a scary moment today playing Dragon Age when there was a cutscene and everybody was talking, and Wynn had just leveled up or something because she must have had a new ability, or it was a glitch. But it zoomed in on her face, and all of a sudden, I don't know if she casted stone skin or something. She had like bark like all over her face, and I'd never seen that before. And it was a close up on her face. And it was
petrify.
Like,
that's like a move. Yeah.
So one of the party members or her must have cast that automatically, and it was freaky.
I actually had Dragon Age in my mental list as well. Just like the general body horror that it does, especially in Awakening. With like the
especially in Awakening.
Is
with
that
that's with the gigantic boob monster.
The gigantic boob monster and the other Darkspawn leader dude who's got like the face growing out of his...
Is that the big expansion you were telling me I should play?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely you should play that.
I'm on track for finishing Dragon Age Origins in the next couple of weeks, so
years.
I want to do that expansion because it sounds like it's pretty big. Too.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's a like 8-hour thing.
Oh, I would say more than that.
Yeah, it could
easily.
There's also like the flesh golems. I kind of hated like the story reasons for them in the Golems of Angmar and the end of Dragon Age 2, but the design of the flesh golems was creepy.
Yeah. Well, going back to Eternal Darkness, Josh, I don't know how familiar you are with that game.
My roommate Dangerous Dave played that game a bunch, and
okay.
And I just remember, was it Dave? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I just remember, was there a spell called Zelda?
Not Zelda.
Does it sound like that? Was there a thing where it's like Zelda?
Yeah, it's put the runes in, and it would go like Pargon,
yes.
and
That's what I remember about that game, and I know that it did like the crazy stuff where it would break the fourth wall.
Yeah, and
but I'm not too familiar.
You have this insanity meter, and like ostensibly you're kind of supposed to avoid having your character go crazy.
Yes.
But I would always try to play through the game with the insanity maxed out just to
it makes it more fun.
Yeah, to get it
makes it more interesting.
Yeah, to have as many of those effects occur as possible, right? Like that's kind of what makes that game interesting.
Yeah. Well, just to give some examples, some of the effects, the insanity effects that would happen would, like, all of a sudden you'd get like a blue crash screen that would say, that it like couldn't read your hard drive or whatever. One of them would kick you into the menu, and then it would give you a message that said it just deleted all your save files. It's like your save files have been deleted.
Are you sure you want to delete? And you try to choose no, and it'd be like, okay, deleting.
Yeah,
like, that must have been so fun before the internet.
Yeah,
It was pretty cool.
Looked very Metal Gear Solid 2, which would mess around.
Metal Gear Solid 1 Didn't the big boss fight at the end of Metal Gear Solid do a bunch of that stuff?
Well, Psycho Mantis, who you encounter like halfway through the game or so, he would do this crazy meta game type stuff where he would like talk about...
Well, didn't you have to do something where you had to like plug your controller into like the other controller input before you could attack him?
Yeah. And before that, like he would demonstrate his psychic powers, and he like read but it would be stuff. It would read the other like Konami games on your memory card and be like,
that's funny. That's awesome.
I see you like Castlevania.
Yeah, totally.
Does anybody? Oh, you played PT.
Yeah, that's on my list too because
wanna play that.
no one specific like that whole thing is
But that has stuff like that.
is the scariest shit I've ever played.
Aren't
in a
people
game.
figuring out that if you say stuff out loud, the microphone picks it
Oh,
up
is that
and
how-
unlocks
okay.
like certain like the ending or something? Like you have to say the designer's name or something.
I didn't know any of that. That's crazy.
I think people
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I think people are still like trying to figure out.
Oh, I didn't. I had no idea.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 had my favorite scene in the game is like at the end of the game, you've got this big ass samurai sword. You're running towards the bad guy, and like you get to this room that's filled with ninjas, and or whatever they are, and then it suddenly says game over.
Well, it says actually it says fission mailed, right? Because usually in game over it'll say like mission failed.
Oh, yeah.
But then it's like this little thing where if you're paying attention, you can see that it's kind of glitchy and busted.
Yeah, so at the game over screen in Metal Gear Solid 2, it's like you have your full screen, and then when you get game over, it like zooms into your body, but you're still running around with your samurai sword fighting on this tiny little screen as it's got all the like game over stuff on the side of the screen.
weird.
With it.
Wow.
Which I don't know if it was like super creepy, but if you're creeped out by that kind of thing.
Oh man, so yeah, I was so creeped out because also what starts happening around that time is the your main contact who is what's his name, the I'm gonna get killed by
Otacon?
no the military guy,
the general.
Whatever. Anyway, I'm totally
yeah.
blanking on that character's name, but
Colonel.
Colonel.
The Colonel.
Yeah.
Colonel Mustard.
He starts saying the most like insane, like you've kind of trusted in him as like this warm human presence on your mission, and then he just starts saying the most like completely nonsensical shit. He starts sending you messages, and he's like, the tuning fork on the rock Harakiri B or whatever, and it's just like complete like gibberish, and it's so unsettling if you're like invested in that game, and then it just all starts falling apart. It's that was like super effective. Yeah,
Your
really
ex-girlfriend is also on there, and she starts like going through the whole breakup with you.
Yeah, I mean, so it comes out that like these are all AI constructs, and you're in some kind of crazy training program.
Which Metal Gear is this?
This is 2. Which I mean, I think Kojima gets so much shit for like releasing that game and having it not be about Snake like people thought it was going to be, like pulling the wool over people's eyes. But I mean, I have some serious problems with Kojima as a storyteller and in a lot of ways, but I give him so much credit for like I think that is just one of the ballsiest, craziest moves.
Ultima 7. Also, you would when you started the game, if you went and stole something, the Guardian would pop out of the screen and be like, "I saw that."
Oh my god,
that was kind of weird.
I was thinking about
Or you'd like walk into a cave and he'd just go,
yeah, or, wrong way. It's an open world game, and he would just be, "You're going the wrong way."
It's messed up.
What were you saying?
Oh, I was just like, I was thinking about, so The Seventh Guest was this game that, 90s, like, full motion video puzzle game, and, like, I watched part of it on YouTube today just to refresh my memory, and it is cheesy as hell.
Yep.
It is so corny. It is, like, the most B-movie, let's have our friends over, get some costumes, and just, like, shoot a goofy horror movie type thing. But my God, when I was like a kid playing that alone in a dark room, it scared the shit out of me. I mean, like there's like a moment where, and I watched this specifically on YouTube today. Like you're in a room with all these paintings.
Yes,
like
the paint. Sorry, that's the only thing I remember from way long ago. Is the paint? Yeah, the paintings.
Like there's this room where, and there's a painting of like a child, and like the painting like comes to life, and the child says, if you think my eyes are big, you should see my teeth. And then like his mouth kind of opens and he shows you like his fangy giant teeth.
It's a total like Stephen King it moment.
Yeah, and like I watched that on YouTube today, and it's so goofy, right? It's like laughable, but just the psychology of it at the time when I was younger, like it's like I couldn't get it out of my head. I mean, this painting of a child talking about the size of its teeth and its eyes, and it just really got under my skin. I thought it was terrifying.
And there was nothing else like that on games.
Yeah.
Like, this was one of the first full motion video games, and probably the first horror one that was reasonably competent, at least.
Yeah.
And like, it also had like music on the CD, so you had CD quality music.
Right.
They hired one of the best game soundtrack people, so it had like a really good aura and pretty good puzzles. If you like,
some of them were good
puzzle
puzzles.
thing that they do, the Myst style, where you wander around and then you click on things and you get a puzzle that's like totally decontextualized.
Yeah, totally.
But then like everything has surpassed it since. But at the time, that game was crazy,
amazing.
Speaking of the same general like era of 90s adventure games, one of my favorite, still to this day, one of my favorite 90s adventure games is Sanitarium, which was a really good horror adventure game.
I played that one.
It's essentially you are a dude who wakes up in a sanitarium, and you have like your face is completely covered in bandages.
Amnesia.
You have amnesia, so you don't know who you are. You can't even see your face to see if like you recognize your own face. Obviously, I think that's all done on purpose, but one of the first stages early on, you sort of go back and forth in between the insane asylum and these like really weird set pieces that you're not really sure if they're like...
It's kind of like Psychonauts if it wasn't played for laughs or goofiness or whatever.
Yeah, you're not really sure if they're dream states or if you're really in some weird, fucked up like landscape somewhere. But one of the stages is it's like a rural town square that is been overtaken by like a giant like pumpkin patch type thing or like this weird vegetation, and there are no adults around, only these weird mutated children. And you talk to all of them and they give you clues on where to go and like sort of initiate a lot of the puzzles, and you make your way to like the end of that stage, and it is just the most bizarre, fucked up, creepy, like Children of the Corn crossed with Garbage Pail Kids crossed with like I don't know what, but it is just it has a very specific gnarly like 90s horror tone that you don't find anymore. It's like sort of practical effects which doesn't really translate to video games exactly, but it's in my mind it's the difference between practical effects and CGI. And this game is like practical effects. Yeah,
it's like all the kids like slowly talk more and more about like the mother or something.
Yes, exactly.
And like eventually you get to like the patch where the mother is, and the mother's all creepy.
Yeah, I mean, if you like 90s adventure point and click adventure games and you have not played Sanitarium, I mean, go to GOG right now and play Sanitarium. It is a kick-ass Halloween game.
Who made that game? Do you know?
It's like, is it Sierra?
No, it's not a Sierra game.
Yeah, because Sierra's horror games, they had like a Phantasmagoria, and like the sequel to Phantasmagoria.
It wasn't Sierra or LucasArts, which is one of the reasons that it gets kind of lost. But it was one of the top 90s adventure games. It was a late 90s one, so it was after like the heyday. I have one that's like a Halloween style thing. It wasn't particularly scary, but it was sort of mind blowing in a similar way to The Seventh Guest. I think the same year even. Quest for Glory 4.
Oh.
Was their sort of like Transylvania themed Quest for Glory. Each different one, you're like going around this fantasy world. The first one's kind of a generic European barony, and then the second one is an Arabian Night style thing, and the third one was an sub-Saharan African thing. Do you have
Dreamforge?
Okay,
it was published by Ask.
Yeah. But then Quest for Glory 4 goes to like straight up Transylvania, Dracula, all these sorts of things. And it wasn't an especially scary game, but like the moment you load it up and it starts playing like the Quest for Glory 4 theme music on the menu, which has like all these electric guitars, which you don't get from games before then because like the MIDI is so crappy. and just sort of like the blood dripping down off the.
It's like
name
the Red Dead Redemption expansion where it's just like, whoa, this is
It
Red
takes
Dead,
it
but
takes the
all
familiar
lame.
elements and
Yeah.
twists them in a
Yeah.
spooky way.
Yeah, so like it's still one of my favorite horror games, even though it's not horrifying, but it has the whole setting and the moment you load up the menu and how it runs is very noteworthy.
Yeah,
I
that's
trailed off
awesome.
there.
That
Cool.
that really does remind me of Red Dead, like, which is like a not scary but super Halloweeny type.
Very
experience.
Halloweeny, yeah.
There's one very specific moment that I remember. It's the PlayStation 1 era that is probably one of the spookiest, like, holy shit, I've never had this moment in a video game before, which was the first time you encounter the liquor upstairs in the first Resident Evil game when you're, right, I think it starts out in the police station and you walk upstairs.
That's 2, isn't it?
Is that 2?
Yeah, that's Resident Evil 2. Because the 1 is the 1 is in the mansion.
Oh,
2 is in
Raccoon City.
Yeah, Raccoon City.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you're right. In 1, you're in the mansion.
Yes.
But I still
And yeah,
it is. Is the first encounter where you walk upstairs in the mansion and it like pops out of the hallway?
The thing that was terrifying for me in 1, and I've talked to a lot of other people who share this, is there's like a window, right, and then the dogs.
The
dogs leap
Sorry,
through the window.
it's a dog,
Scary,
not a
yeah.
liquor.
Yeah.
It's a dog.
But then,
that's
and then,
what I'm thinking.
And then in 2, though, the first encounter with the liquor is also.
I
is
thought
pretty
you meant
terrifying.
liquor.
no.
Like the scariest
right.
moments
The
when you
scary-
find the liquor.
Yeah.
No. It's like the name of
That's the
these.
scariest moments for Josh with the podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, like
I think I'm conflating those two moments, but
That's one.
it's been like I don't know 17 years since I played
There's
that
an HD
game.
remake about to come out.
A remake.
Yeah, they made it.
they put it out on the GameCube.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were putting it out
they're
again.
remaking that GameCube version
Oh my god!
for HD.
So it's the remake reloaded.
yes.
Wow, that's.
Should we pretty soon here? We should read some of our
let's read.
fans.
Do you want to take a quick break and then read some emails?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that and be right back.
Unwinnable.com, where video games, comics, and pulp culture is what is on our minds. Looking for an analog feel in a digital world? Follow the exploits of the Unwinnable staff through their voices and words every day at Unwinnable.com. Be sure to tune into the Unwinnable Broadcast Network for Unlistenable, the official Unwinnable podcast, Unmixable, our series of mixtapes, and more. Unwinnable. It's good for your brain.
And we're back. This time we're really going to do it. We're going to read some emails.
Time for emails.
Jay, what did we ask?
We asked
people?
We asked the people, the listeners, to write in with their favorite horror moments in video games. What did we get?
Anne
Yeah, friend of the show.
from chickpixel.com. CHIC-pixel.com. Writes in, hey fellas.
That'd
Hi.
be chic.
Chic Pixel.
Yeah.
Makes more sense. No, it doesn't. But but it is spelled better. It is not spelled chick. Hey fellas, horror game moment. I don't play a whole lot of horror games because I'm a scaredy cat, but just for your show, I thought of something. This may kind of be considered spoilers for Corpse Party, but I'll keep it vague, so hopefully it won't be. One of the most deliciously creepy moments in a horror game I've witnessed involves a certain character in Corpse Party who has a thing for photographing dead, mutilated bodies.
Who doesn't?
Sounds promising.
He says it helps him stay sane, but the way it's depicted in the game, it totally comes off as a weird fetish. Anyway, after being trapped in this hellish high school with a number of other students, he comes across a body that has literally been strewn across a wall, guts all over the place, flies buzzing, that kind of thing. You as the player watch the character die in a previous scene, so you know who it was and how it went down. But he doesn't. He becomes obsessed with the photos he took of the corpse, having no idea that it's actually one of his classmates. The moment later on in the game when he realizes who it is, even though we as players know the whole time, is impeccable. Not really crap your pants terrifying or anything, but it's some seriously spine-tingling stuff. By the way, I really recommend Corpse Party. Keep up the great work, and chicpixel.com.
Cool. Thanks, Anne. That's That's a good one. That makes me want to check out Corpse Party.
I like the idea that you know, but the character doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're sort of waiting for them to make that connection, and you're like, the anticipation is what makes it kind of creepy.
Right.
That's building that suspense. That's the best kind of horror.
Memento
I
worked
think.
well in that way. In the
Yeah.
beginning, you knew nothing. He knows everything.
But you know that you know nothing,
In the end,
Jon Snow.
you know everything.
and he knows that you know
knows
that
nothing.
you know nothing.
Dave, friend of the show, Dangerous Dave writes in. Everybody's friend of the show.
Yeah, Dave.
Hey
Dangerous
guys,
Dave.
not sure if you've ever played this one, but probably one of the scariest games I've ever played was Clock Tower on the PS1.
Ooh, I vaguely remember Clock Tower.
If you have played it, you probably remember the sheer panic that courses through you when the music starts. And then that freak with the oversized gardening shears shows up. As I recall, when you hear that music play, that is your cue, and you've got a precious few seconds to find a place to hide. After you hide, Scissor Man hobbles around the room like something out of a nightmare and randomly thrusts his shears into one of the hiding spots. Hopefully not yours. Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah. This is, I want to say that Deadly Premonition borrowed from
Really?
this game. Yeah.
The reason it was so effective was because the game was kind of boring. Go into this room, read these old newspapers, study documents, etc., all the while with no music, just the sound effects and dialogue. Then all of a sudden the music starts and it's like, oh shit, he's here. Anyway, that was one of my old favorite scary games, Davy Ashtray.
That's hilarious. But yeah, in Deadly Premonition, there are moments or scenes where you have to escape the raincoat killer. And it does this really cool split screen thing where you can see where the killer is going, and then on the other screen is where you are going. And that moment where you see the guy on your screen as well as his screen is like,
oh, yeah.
that's real creepy. But I mean, it's a normal over-the-shoulder third-person game.
Uh-huh.
But in this instance, like, your perspective totally changes, and I want to say it's a fixed perspective, so the camera doesn't follow from behind your character. Like, it's more, I don't know, like Resident Evil or something.
reminds
where
me-
It's Prince of Persia 2, The Warrior Within.
No, it reminds me of Spy vs. Spy multiplayer.
Oh yeah,
Because you're playing, and then all of a sudden you'll see the other dude walk into your frame, I think.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. for
oh,
sure.
that's good. That
that was a fun game.
That was
Spy vs.
such-
Spy was great.
Yeah.
Oh man, I loved that game.
It's probably one of my favorite two-player
Yeah.
NES games ever, for sure.
Oh.
In Prince of Persia: The Warrior Within, there's this Dahaka thing that's chasing you, and it's always like the
Oh.
game's always in the like third-person camera where you've got the thumbstick control, but when the Dahaka shows up, it goes all like gray, and you're just running along the walls, and the camera is fixed, and there
Yeah.
are only certain things that you can do.
And that's when the butt rock really kicks in, and it's like...
No, the butt rock is with combat.
Prince of Persia. That's all I remember from that game. Is it's just like new metal Persia.
Its aesthetic is a little off, but it has a whole bunch of interesting ideas.
It's weird. It's definitely the Slipknot of Prince of Persia games.
Man, that was such a bummer after the like wide-eyed wonder of the first Prince of Persia game in that series.
That
they had
series-
to go and like grunge it up.
Yeah.
It was such a weird tonal shift, right?
Yes, very.
So jarring.
Very weird.
That series is Assassin's Creed now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not but it's.
I don't know. I don't think there's been a Prince of Persia game with like a map and a open worldy sort of setup.
I thought... Okay, for some reason
But
I thought
in
that it
terms
was...
of like the parkour elements.
No. I thought it actually literally started as the next Prince of Persia game and then switched to new IP.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like I actually do
Oh.
think that Ubi was like, oh,
Developing.
instead of
Right.
keeping
I see.
making new Prince of Persia games, they kind of
shifted.
to like it somehow morphed into Assassin's Creed. But
That's entirely
I think
possible.
Assassin's Creed does come from the fruits of the labor of Prince of Persia.
Oh, there's no doubt.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I heard that, so...
I mean,
There's definitely a feeling that it's like someone at Ubisoft said, "What if Prince of Persia was open world?"
yeah. Or I mean, just even going back to
They're like
the
what if-
original, like the original 2D Prince of Persia,
Yeah.
where the animation and just, I mean,
Yeah.
that was a game where the sense of physical, like leaping and climbing up on ledges and stuff, like that kind of tactile sense of using the environment.
That was amazing.
Was so amazing, and I mean that is I think the through line that you see in when you look at Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, hear me out. It's Prince of Persia, but you can sit on a bench sometimes.
So old.
That reminds me of when we had our game site and we did reviews, and I reviewed Prince of Persia. No, I reviewed Assassin's Creed. Yeah, and it was all about sitting on benches.
Yeah, it was a
All you do is sit on
bench
benches.
simulator.
I never got past the bench sitting.
Walking simulator.
I never got to the part where you run around and kill people.
Sitting simulator.
Sitting simulator.
There's a lot of sitting.
So was that it for the reader emails?
Yes.
And that's
Those are the
been...
only
That's
two
it
good
for now.
ones?
No, we got a bunch, but we're saving some for
spreading it
next
out.
week.
Thanks for your emails. Oh, didn't quite match that up. Maybe we'll get it next time.
Send us your emails.
Fix it in post.
Josh and Jay Show at unwinnable.com.
Yeah, you can do that.
So do you have some more spooky moments, Jay?
Where's your list?
I think I had maybe one or two. Oh, I know one I can mention. Now it's not a spooky one, but it was a very, very awesome tongue-in-cheek horror moment in a newer game. One of the cooler indie games that I've enjoyed more this year is Jazz Punk.
Oh.
I
And
never played that.
there's a part in that game. You should, if you like things like The Naked Gun, you should play Jazz Punk because it's kind of like the Naked Gun of
It's that
video
like
games.
surreal comedy.
Yeah,
I just watched Airplane.
it's very absurdist.
Absurdist, yeah.
It will probably be my number one nominee for our Liquid Televideo game of the year when we do our best of year-end list. But there's a moment where you find it can happen, I think, at a few different moments, but you find these pizza boxes, and if you examine the pizza boxes, it transports you to this weird trail in the woods in the dark. And it's a very short little stage that you play through. You walk down this trail, like I said, in the middle of the dark woods, and you come upon the cabin, and the cabin is shaped like a Pizza Hut, and it's the pizza.
What?
And it's the pizza cabin in the woods, and you walk inside, and it's a little bit like Evil Dead with like stuff moving around, but there's a typewriter, and on the typewriter it says, "All work and no play makes pizza a dull pizza," and then like every other word, it's like all pizza and no pizza makes pizza, and it's all about pizza.
So Jen Frank designed this.
So Jen Frank designed this.
Excellent.
But I think if you activate the typewriter or something, then like I don't know, stuff starts to move. But it's definitely a funny little homage to cabin in the woods type horror stuff. But it's about pizza too, so it's just one of those random things.
Which makes it better.
Just one of those completely random things, and this whole game is just random encounters like that.
Oh god, I really want pizza now.
Like random non sequitur
Let's
sort
order
of
some
pieces
pizza.
of
We used to have pizza.
gameplay.
We did. Then you moved and got a new job. It changed everything. It
Well,
lost us our pizza.
I think it's because Jen Frank quit video games, so we don't get
Yeah,
pizza.
this is
as
fuck Gamergate.
It's out of respect.
If you
really.
eat pizza, you support. You're a gator. You're basically a gator.
No, that's
That-
not what I meant. That's
wow.
that's ridiculous.
We're not eating pizza till Jim Frank comes back.
That's right.
She was posting your Ask FM stuff, which links to her Twitter account. So
We're on
she
a
was back.
we're on a pizza strike. That's because that's how we roll.
Ask FM is.
That's a thing.
No.
You don't like it?
I know. I mean, everybody should be able to do whatever they want with their time.
Oh,
I just feel like why? I guess can't they just ask the questions on Twitter instead of having a separate thing?
Oh, if
There
you
isn't
want
the
to
character
answer the
limit?
question, like there is the character limit. If
But
you
the
want to
answers
answer the
are
question,
always okay. The answers seem pretty short typically when I'm looking at that.
well, maybe you follow boring people.
But maybe some of them. Do you think they're ever asking themselves questions?
Definitely,
Because I definitely do.
I definitely do.
Okay.
I like these questions are boring. I'm going to ask myself about the Vampire Diaries.
Right. That's sort of my real thing with it is I'm pretty sure that's just all it is.
It's not all it
sounds about
is,
right.
but when you see someone seem to like get really excited about a question kind of decontextualized, that's what it
Well,
is.
I'm sure like if Ewan McGregor did it, he would get lots of questions. But but some of the
Let's just
people
stop there.
that I
I
see
think we
on
could-
Twitter doing the Ask FM, there could be thousands of people that are super interested in what they have to say and are asking the questions on this weird website, but maybe not. That's all. Looks a little hinky.
Are you saying it's a false flag?
No, I'm saying do it.
Not my shield.
And I'm also okay with pretending that they're real questions. Like, do whatever you want.
Yeah, pretend.
Yeah, I'm fine with pretending.
Pretend they're real
Let's play
questions.
make believe.
I just want, yeah.
I found one last moment that I thought of, and if you
Guess it correctly.
were on the Steam sale tip recently and happened to pick up Tomb Raider for $4, which was ridiculous.
Wow.
Because that is a really good game
Yes.
for $4. There is a excellent moment in that game,
The new
where
one, right?
the new one,
Yeah.
where Lara Croft like wakes up in this river of blood,
Yes.
and it is
Oh,
like
yeah.
it is like a full on Carrie moment where it's like dripping from her, and it's just like
It's also a direct visual reference to a film, The Descent, which is like an amazing horror film from about...
That was on last night.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, like that's an amazing horror film from like maybe 10 years ago now, or I don't know.
cool.
But yeah, like it's...
I don't
it's-
think I've seen it.
Yeah, like The Descent is a terrific horror film, and that is like a shot for shot like referenced. I mean,
Oh.
people like it. Yeah, I don't know that for a fact, but it seems like a very deliberate homage to The Descent. For
No,
me.
that's
Yeah, it
great
is.
because that moment was I was not expecting it to get that gnarly.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, whoa, where did this
yeah,
come
and
from?
The Descent is a gnarly movie. It's a really good kind of psychological, horror film about going deep into the earth and finding some serious shit. And aren't we the real monsters?
Oh, that sounds great.
Do you think when Laura Croft goes to the dentist is like,
It's Lara.
Lara? Do you think when Lara
Yeah,
Croft
please.
goes to the dentist is like, oh, you don't need Novocaine, or what's it called, Novocaine? Like, you don't need any
Yeah.
antiseptic, because I've seen you have a stick like stuck through your whole body and like
Yeah.
pull it out and keep walking. And she's like, well, I still want the stuff. That doesn't mean that I want pain.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's a good point.
It's probably true.
That was a good story.
Hey.
I hate stories.
What is that from?
Oh, that's
Witcher.
Gary or Geralt as you
Oh, right.
as you may
yeah,
know him
yeah,
as.
okay. No. My friend Gary. My
We
homie
like to
Gary. Yeah.
we call him Gary.
Yeah.
We're close.
Okay.
So, did you have more spooky moments?
I have more. I don't think so.
I've been genuinely scared playing Skyrim.
I've been generally scared going on Twitter reading about video games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
pretty
like
crazy.
funny. Like for me, video games lately have been an escape from the horrifying scene and culture around video games.
Yeah, and that is really ironic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I read video games stuff usually on NeoGAF, which is way better than Twitter because there's just a thread with all that stuff in it. So if you just don't open that thread, all the other threads are just talking about video game
Yeah.
stuff normally.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, it's so great.
a
Like
little easier.
when I was on my way here, I read a great critique of aspects of Alien Isolation, and it's just like for me right now, it is so great, like more vital than ever to just read stuff that's about games as games. Like, I mean, everybody knows I will get into some socio-political shit about video games because I think those aspects are as vital and important a part of the discussion as anything else. But it's like, it's just so
Rowan
great.
disagrees, but
It's so great.
Looking out the window.
It's so great to remember.
Video games.
Video games.
Yeah, these are
right?
video games.
Yeah,
Video
and,
games.
yeah. I mean, I've been streaming a lot lately. I think it's great that the PS4 and the Xbox One have Twitch stuff built in, and like that to me is just a great way to share and celebrate games with people. So, yeah, man, video games.
Yeah.
And the comments are always super interesting.
I mean, well, that's the thing. Is like I feel like I've been lucky that the people coming to hang out have been
That's cool.
funny and smart and just cool people. Because like when the jerks start showing up, it sucks. But yeah,
That's just the way it goes sometimes, unfortunately.
This
alas.
reminded me, Jay, are you going to play the Alien game?
I've been thinking about it, and
It's 60 hours long.
$1 per hour.
I've been reading about how it's so funny to read how so many critics are like 20 hours is just too long for that game, and I feel like your Joe Schmo commenter in the comment section, if they find out a game like Alien is only 20 hours long, they're like, well, that's bullshit. That's not worth $60.
That's dumb, though.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
But I find it refreshing when
So it's
there's
the Gone
critics
Home of
saying.
Alien games.
So it's the right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like-
I mean, pacing should be what really matters,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Is like, does the game sustain itself well?
Sounds
Or
like
there,
no.
there's some games that are 20 hours and are too short. There are some games that are 20 hours and are way too long. You know,
I want to. That game sounds like it nails the atmosphere of Aliens
yes,
so well that
so that's
I want.
I mean, I've only played the first
Really?
hour or so.
That's all I want to play.
And it's like, but immediately I'm like, oh man, they were so like they studied the production of the Ridley Scott film so closely and captured it so authentically.
That's what I
and
want.
these environments feel lived in, and like that's the aspect of it that I'm enjoying, even though there's all these problems with the game as well. It's like like that's the one thing that I came to the game for more than anything else, and so far it's delivering on that level, so I'm basically happy with it.
There is a real smart guy that I follow on Twitter who writes for PC Gamer. His name is Andy Kelly, and he's on Twitter at Ultra Brilliant, and he does this series.
Better be smart.
He does this series called Other Places, where he uses he like goes into the I don't know, some sort of setting and unlocks the free roaming camera inside of PC games, and then he like does these cinematic, just basically video captures of the environments with no gameplay going on, and then puts like really weird ambient music behind them and just posts them on YouTube. And he did one for Alien Isolation that he put up recently. They're usually really interesting, and he's especially obsessed with sort of UI and just in general, like the sort of tonal design of environments, and just the amount that he was tweeting about how that game nails every little detail.
Yeah.
Like about how it is, I guess, very perfectly sci-fi in that exact late 70s kind of way.
The technology in the game, and this was like something, because I went to a presentation at GDC where they were like the developers were kind of talking about it, and they this was like a philosophical kind of part of the approach to the design of that game. Is the technology needs to be like chunky and clunky in appearance, but also in function, where you have so many games where technology is empowering and it aids you, but in this game, kind of like in the film, technology is as much of a liability as it is an asset. Like, it's not going to always work properly. If you're using the motion tracker thing, the display is not going to give you a whole lot of detailed information.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And if you look at the display, the rest of the environment goes out of focus.
Yeah.
So you're losing that visual information. So there's this constant like trade-off, as in terms of how you use the technology. But yeah, I just love how it's so pixelated and chunky, and like all the keyboards, like all the technology in the game is based on actual stuff that existed and could have been used in the production of a film at that time. Mm-hmm. So the look and feel of it is, I think, just so far anyways, spot on.
I wish there was a demo or something, because I feel like that's all I need.
I know, I've noticed they don't really do demos on the new consoles as much as they did on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I mean, we talked about how when we first got our 360s, some of those first demos were like mind blowing. I mean, the first time you played the BioShock 1 demo, and you were like, oh wait, it's not doing anything because this is the game. I'm supposed to be
When
playing
you
right
put in the
now.
water,
Where you're just sitting in the,
or
in the
Crackdown,
still
which
water.
I played over and over and over and
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
And over and over and over. Yeah.
We hardly talk about Crackdown on the show, but that's a good it's a good note.
Oh, speaking of Crackdown, that Sunset Overdrive, I was watching a stream of it, and maybe.
Yeah, could be.
It'll keep,
Maybe,
it'll
I don't know.
tide you over until actual Crackdown comes out.
I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I don't know about that game, but I was watching the stream, and maybe a little Crackdowny.
I was playing some Shadow of Mordor, and I was like, this is like Skyrim with Crackdown.
Yeah.
Really? That's funny because everyone talks about Assassin's Creed, and Batman.
Isn't that what we said on the last
said,
show?
We said a bunch of different ones of those and may have hit on that one. But
No,
that's the one that I did.
I very specifically remember comparing it to Crackdown because I said that it had the towers that you can jump off
Yeah,
of.
although
Yeah.
that's become an Assassin's Creed thing where
Yeah.
you go on the tower and like you synchronize the area around you and you
That's
do
true.
the leap of faith kind of thing.
Ripping
But
off
true.
Watch Dogs.
So that I mean, it's kind of frustrating how common that like Mordor is not a Ubisoft game, but it's like Watch Dogs, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed. You know, all these Ubisoft games have that same template of like, here's the map and here's all the things you can collect and do and stuff. And Mordor very much. I mean, I think Mordor has enough ideas of its own to set itself apart, but obviously that model is just becoming so common.
Yeah.
To me, Mordor, I said this on the last show, for me, it is exactly a giant Batman level. It's just a giant Batman level. You figure out where to go, which gargoyles to stand on.
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's
just wait! It becomes 2 giant Batman.
Yes,
levels.
yes, it does.
Yeah, but now I'm scared I'm going to stop like you did once I
And
get to that.
like for me, when I got to that point in Mordor where it's like there's a whole other map, I was like, I've already. Wait, you're telling me I've already like dismantled and undermined and destroyed Sauron's armies, and now you want me to fucking like start doing that whole process all over again? Like I felt like all the momentum that I've been building up was suddenly like as if it didn't even
Is
matter.
that what it
but,
is?
But
Really?
I mean, it's the way you go about it the second time is different enough, and the environment is certainly different enough that I kind of
That's
came
the part
around
that
and I'm
interests
like,
me.
okay, I'll do this, but
The environment's different?
Well,
the environment is very
I've
different.
also the environment is actually way more of like a wooded area.
It's lush, it's green.
Yeah, it's not this open.
I gotta go.
It's not these
Yeah.
open plains.
Yeah.
It is much more interesting.
Why am I having a hard time beating this last boss? That shouldn't. This game has been so easy.
Well, maybe
Maybe
oh
I
God.
missed something. They
Did
told
you?
me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Am I
Did you,
supposed to be using my new arrow thing on him or something?
not necessarily. Did you take out his like henchmen or whatever?
Yeah, but it keeps respawning them.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like, I didn't know that the game was going to do that. Like, I knew that I had some built-in narrative reason for coming back to life, but I was so weirded out the first time that I...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant in the fight itself.
Okay.
No, yes, I took out all the chiefs and,
Yeah, okay.
and all their bodyguards.
Right,
and all that.
okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
They come back to life. is
isn't
what
it
I'm
weird
saying.
how,
Yeah.
like, you kill orcs, and they also come back to life?
I think if you do a
They're all
finishing
scarred.
move on them, they will not come back to life.
I felt like I cut off some of their heads, and they would come back to
really?
life. I feel like I did.
Oh, I was under the impression that if you did.
like-
I think we said if you destroy the brain somehow, you stab them in the head, you cut off their head. But I mean, I feel like you're not the only person who's told me that they come back if you cut off the head.
I had one who I stabbed through the eye, and he came back with like his eye.
Yeah,
scarred.
so like they have,
there's that.
and they will then talk about their scars and things. And
Oh,
like,
you took my eye,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
motherfucking cocksucker.
yeah, yes, like yeah.
Cocksucker motherfucker, what the
That's
fuck? He'll flip you.
That's what I was
He'll flip you
Sam,
for
Sam,
real.
Sam.
Me the
Flip
keys, you cocksucker.
So,
Give me the keys.
So to go back to the Prince of Persia games, that's actually what Mordor initially reminded me of. Is the third of the PS2 era ones?
Yeah, which was the two thrones?
Yeah, not the two towers. But there's these sequences in that where you go into a room and you see a bunch of bad guys, and you're supposed to like find the right spot where you drop down on top of one of them and you hop to the next one and hop to the next one. And you take them all out, because if you don't do that, they get super powerful when you have to fight them one-on-one.
Yeah.
Or fight them one against all of them.
Yeah.
And Mordor is like that, except it's systemic. So you go into the room or the stronghold or just see the guy walking there, and he's got like 10 orcs around him, and one of them is going to go run and bang the alarms, and you have to figure out the best way to try to take out all of them. And I think that was a really interesting thing that to kind of take this one thing that a game from 7 or 8 years ago had done, and then really make it its own systemic way was not what I was expecting.
Batman. Mordor has a way of allowing me to plan what I'm going to do that I wouldn't expect from a game that's this beat 'em up-y.
Yeah, it like there is a surprising amount of strategy that goes into just fucking killing a bunch of dudes, however you're gonna do it.
Also, my adrenaline is
not
okay when I'm playing.
Well, now you know why I think we talked last episode about how we can only play this game for so long before we kind of have to put it down. And it's not because it's boring or uninteresting.
Because I'm gonna break my controller because I'm holding it so tight.
Like I almost to the point where I can't hold it anymore because my hands are so sweaty from like.
It's interesting
because when you die, those bodyguards get promoted and suddenly
die
bodyguards again, and so
you gotta just unplug your computer from the wall.
But not when the little thing is going.
Josh, don't you know you don't unplug your machine while
how
the
would
save
I know?
thing
They
is
should
going on.
tell me not to.
I know. I mean,
so interestingly, this is the only game that my girlfriend has ever watched me play for an extended period of time and been like, "This is great. This is like a movie." And I'm like, "Well, there's also games with dialogue and stuff." She's like, "No. This is fucking rad. This looks like a story to me."
Yeah, the characterization, the way that the AI, you do get attached to hating particular orcs who keep showing up and fucking you up. Like
it's sort of like they're like anti-party members.
Yeah.
Where you grow to like love hating them.
Yeah, I just found one yesterday who's one of the bodyguards of one of the war chiefs I have to kill, and he's got no weaknesses. And he's one of the heavy ones, so you have to, like, jump over him. Like, his only weakness is fire, and you can only do that, like, once.
Yeah.
Unless you really, really get lucky and plan ahead.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you take out a war chief, or you're about to, and a bunch of guys, and it's a big involved thing, and it was 10 minutes long, and then all of a sudden a couple other... like captains just show up randomly.
Yes.
Here's what I've noticed is that there's that button to toggle your Batman detective vision basically, and it will highlight in red the captain, and then it gives you if you're playing on a controller, you click the little R3 button down, and then it will zoom in on them and give you the breakdown of their strengths and weaknesses, and it identifies them.
You hear the Wraith say their voice. I mean say their name.
Kaka, the dung collector.
Exactly.
I found one of them too. I also got revenge for a guy who killed Josh.
We should talk about that too.
Well, real quick though, so sometimes you'll hit that button and all of a sudden you'll be like, wait, there are 3 red characters all around here? Like, what the hell? And then, I mean, that completely... it's just one of those moments where you think you have the stage or level figured out, and then all it takes is that one press of a button to realize that, like, well, that plan is gone to shit.
Have you been above a captain and you're trying to do a stealth kill on him, but you can't, like, it'll miss him and stealth kill him?
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. That is the worst.
This game also has the Far Cry 2 thing where you get in these situations and they all come at you and you start chaos, even if that chaos brings a shitload more orcs to come and kill you. Like, it still helps you because they're all confused and yelling and you're, like, getting the dogs out, and it's...
Have you gotten...
This is the game that I can play for hours as opposed to those other ones that I can't.
I played for hours last night against our rule. I played for 2 or 3 hours straight last night, but I definitely had a couple Han Solo moments where I got a bunch of people chasing me.
Yes.
And then ran to one of the fires, and then just turned around with my bow, and then took out the fire.
Yeah, that's great. I love the moments where... if you are going for the what are they called? Not the captains, but the ones that are higher up than the captains.
The war chiefs.
The war chiefs. Mm-hmm. So if you're going for one of the war chiefs or the black captain at the stage that you're at, it gives you a mission, sort of mini mission that you have to complete in order to draw them out. It's like stealth kill this many of the dudes or burn this many of their followers in order to cause enough trouble for the war chief himself to come out and be like, who's causing all that trouble?
That was a rad scene, though.
You know? But every time it does this, it all of a sudden zooms into wherever the war chief is, and it does the Wraith thing. It's like, Kugaluga.
But it's
or
not
whatever
even,
his name
just
is.
that though. It's like this. It's being chanted
Yes.
by this chorus.
That's what I was going to
yeah.
say.
Yeah.
All of the followers start going, Kugaluga,
Yeah.
Kugaluga. It's so good.
Yeah.
And when you hear those drums beating, it's very like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
With all the followers and like the, what's his name comes out and he's going to rip that guy's heart out of his chest. And it's like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
And then there was a super Batman moment though when the main the Black War Chief whatever came out.
Black
Like,
Hand.
show me this Ranger guy, go get him, whatever. And then you step out and you're like,
You're gonna love me.
Yeah.
Wait till you get a load of
yeah,
me.
it's so cool.
I found myself really liking the character design of Talion because he looks really sad all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, his wife and son were murdered before his eyes. Of course, he's sad all the time.
But he was sad. I thought he was going to be like the grizzled, like strong jaw dude, and instead he looks like Sonny from Treme, or the new Dario from Game of Thrones. It's the same actor. He looks like that dude, and I think that's like it's a very vulnerable kind of look for the dude who goes around stabbing and beheading every orc he sees.
God, I hope you guys are wrong. And maybe I hope you're right.
We hope
I don't
you're
know.
wrong too.
About
at the end where we were talking about how sad it would be if at the end they pan back and you see all the like orc families.
Oh
and
yeah,
families
you've
and
been,
mobs.
well. So here's just to add another layer to that. One of the more interesting things that I've noticed about all of the NPCs that you just murder the shit out of in this game is that they have a fear of death.
So this is,
Like the NPCs in the game have a fear of death, and that's something that is I'm not used to in a game like this.
And for me, that aspect of the game goes a little deeper than that because, so Austin Walker wrote, I think, a fantastic piece for Paste magazine about the NPCs in Mordor and in Watch Dogs, and I recommend everyone to read it. But it's like on one hand, this game really wants you to feel good about just murdering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of orcs, right? And like the game tries to reinforce this by constantly having Talion and Celebrimbor say things to each other like they're pure evil, like they are a scourge on the earth. They only understand hate and destruction or whatever. But at the same time, the game gives them so much like personality and so much culture, and so on that it's like you kind of have to feel like their lives have a kind of value, and then it's kind of a little fucked up for you to just feel like it's completely okay for you to go around murdering all of them.
I think the way that I view them is very different than the way I viewed them in the the movies,
Sure, like
I guess, let's say, like in the films where they're like, all right, they're obviously bad, they deserve to be killed. There's like no redeeming qualities about anything about their little group as a group, nothing individually or socially. But in this game, I love the moments where there's like one war chief that fights another war chief, and then you can just sort of hang out on the sidelines and see how it plays out to decide who you want to attack or what you want to do. But it does a couple things. One, it gives you the impression that this is a living world outside of your interaction in it, which is the coolest thing.
Great job. It always feels like it's going.
Yeah, if you're not in an area there, like we talked about this last time, like Skyrim, when you approach a town, a lot of times you feel like they're actors on the Truman Show or something.
They get off their smoke break.
They get off their smoke break, stomp their cigarette, and they're like, "Oh, quick, he's coming! Everybody in position."
The hero of Kavach.
Yeah, exactly. Are you the hero of Kavach? But in Mordor, like they're doing what they're doing regardless of whether or not you're there. Which includes fighting each other, which has this sort of like they're very like feel like their own version of an honor-bound system, like almost like they remind me of Klingons. Like Klingons, yes, in the classic Star Trek lore, Klingons were the bad guys, but eventually, like you realize that they weren't inherently bad. It's like they're culturally predisposed to a very like sort of what we consider barbaric culture, but it like has some like rhyme or reason to it.
It's
right?
a barbaric culture that you can only deal with by chopping off their heads and like stabbing them to death.
But it's true because I'll be running along from point A to point B in this game doing the fast run, and I'll see a lone orc and I'll murder him, and then I'll go, oh my god, I'm a fucking sociopath. Like, why did I?
Yeah.
I feel worse about
like-
that than in Grand Theft Auto because like these guys,
Yeah, they have.
they're
like,
doing their job. I'm
some of
doing
them are
mine.
like poets, you know, like some of them is like
Yeah.
so and so the poet
Yeah,
or whatever, and
yeah.
it's like.
They're just their boss sucks.
Yeah.
and my boss also sucks. And then we have to fight. You know, like that's just
You
how
show
it
up and you're like, well, I guess you know, like nothing personal, dude.
yeah, it's like the Civil War. you
I'm
know?
gonna stab your forehead, but it's nothing
There's
personal.
also like moments where they're talking in the background,
Yes.
and one's like, "The ranger attacked us last night, and he killed like a dozen," and the other one's like, "Yeah, but we'll just keep breeding, and
Yeah.
we'll overrun him." And I was like, "Holy shit, man! You guys are spec opsing me."
They are.
I think the chatter in that game in Mordor is some of the best, maybe the best I've ever heard. I'm
so excited
One-
about playing this game again now.
One of the pieces of background, it wasn't even background dialogue, but it was during one of those encounters between captains. One captain is challenging another captain to a fight, and in this case, it was actually one captain who was way overpowering another one, and it wasn't a fight. He had this captain like surrendering, who was like down on his
Yeah.
knees,
Wow.
and he's ready to
It's an execution,
execute.
yeah.
It's an execution, and the orc captain who's being executed says, "Please don't kill me. I'd die from that." And it was one of my favorite moments I've ever of the whole game, because I'm like, well, number one, it's funny because they're dumb, but it's a funny line, but also like they're aware of their own mortality and they don't want it to happen, even though they recognize it as an inevitability.
That's so.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. NPCs in games aren't supposed to
No,
think
they're
about
not supposed
shit
to
like
know.
that. They're not supposed to know.
That's why in Grand Theft Auto it doesn't matter.
This is why I wanted to write about the game, was the idea that you are like attacking the orcs in their morale, and part of this was the piece that you wrote, which sort of inspired it. But I wanted to complicate that because you were talking about how the sort of anti-heroism in this was very different from Tolkien.
Yeah, I think it runs very contrary to in my view, it runs very contrary to Tolkien in the sense that it's I mean, Tolkien is deeply concerned with like a fear of power and power's ability to corrupt, you know, and
Sure.
this game like I feel like it acknowledges that power corrupts in a sense, but it twisted in the way that we as players are supposed to be like really stoked and excited about our increasing power, rather than like it being a thing where, you know, we're supposed to be like take a step back and be like concerned about this or scared about the effect that the power is having.
Well, one of the things I think complicates is that obviously you lose in the long run because Sauron gets his armies.
Okay.
But just more sort of generally, there's this tension in the game between this is a game that you have to progress in, and this is a system that could run forever. Like, those orcs
Yeah.
will constantly respawn.
Sure.
They'll get
Yeah.
promoted. They'll kill each other. They'll
Yeah.
kill you. And, like, there could be, like, just a permanent 100% constantly running version of this game that you are just always there.
Because you always come back and then you come back.
Yeah. Or they get a
Right. I
new
mean, you
version.
can't get to a point, right, where the hierarchies in both maps of the game are just like completely empty, right?
It's
where,
frustrating because
Right, it's
it starts to empty out and I get really excited
Yeah.
and I'll screenshot it for some reason
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I want it.
At,
I did it.
At some
Oh,
point, this
crap.
game just basically boils down to an end game where you're like, have you ever seen that? What was that Jet Li movie where there's like a bunch of different Jet Lis? The One. And in the end, they take the one bad Jet Li and put him on like the Hell planet that's like a prison for all the bad people. And since he's the strongest bad guy, the movie ends with just him sitting like on this pedestal, and it's just like millions of bad guys around this pedestal, like waiting for their turn to fight him, and he's just forever fighting dudes in this arena.
Right,
forever.
exactly. That's the
right.
horrifying. That's like
Forever.
Yeah.
if you take mentally, you take it to its extreme. Like that is what
Yeah.
this game is. Is it's just like it's gonna just fucking go on forever.
Has anyone finished it?
I finished the story.
Oh, you
Yes.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing to get into the Tolkien mythology is that the dude, the elf dude, Celebrimbor.
Yeah.
He's one of Fëanor's sons, and Fëanor is the anti-hero of Tolkien.
Okay.
Like, and this is one of the things that Tolkien describes Fëanor as being terrible. Like, it's a consistent description of, like, their terrible glory. And this is something that your character uses in the game, is you use terror. You are a terror.
Yes.
You bring that terror to the orcs. Like, as you progress in skills, you get the head exploding moves.
Yeah.
You get the stab through the eye moves, and all these things that it's like, that's not what Lord of the Rings has, but the Silmarillion's kind of perspective on how the elves fought the orcs, that's kind of how they did it. And I think that's a really interesting thing. And they failed. Like, the only way that they ended up defeating the orcs was when they had, I think, a half-elf man who was so pure of intent and heart and so on that he went back to the gods and said, hey, guys, we're getting our asses kicked. Can you come and take out the bad guys for us? And that's the only way that they won. And Fëanor's sons were still cursed after that because they had been such jackass anti-heroes. So, like, I'm not sure that the idea of the game as, like, a progress thing really works with it, but I think it does match up with a certain element of Tolkien's mythology that Lord of the Rings didn't really have.
I think your character being taken under the wing of a jackass son of whoever is, like, that sounds about right.
Well, see, the thing that cursed them is that they had, like, these super magical jewels stolen by Sauron's initial boss. And he stole those, and he took off from Middle-earth from Upper-earth or whatever. And so they were like, okay, we have to go get him back.
Upper-earth?
I don't remember the term exactly, but yes. Upper-earth as opposed to Middle-earth.
Sure.
So they went to these other elves. There are like 3 different groups of elves. They went to these other elves, and they were like, can we borrow your boats? And they're like, no, we don't want to join you on this revenge mission. So then they attacked them, and they killed them. And they took the boats because they had sworn an oath to not let anyone stand in the way of getting the jewels back. So Fëanor and his sons, who did this, were cursed forever to be anti-hero jackasses. And then this dude, you know, he ends up forging the rings for Sauron and then helping your ranger. So it's a sort of like really interesting connection to the dark side of the Tolkien mythology.
Is that
And
stuff
dark
in the
side.
books? Like the trilogy? I don't remember.
There's like some references to it, but generally I don't think it gets that specific about it.
So that stuff's in the extra book he wrote?
Well, the Silmarillion is like a collection of the stories of, like, the creation mythology of, like, Middle-earth and the gods and everything, like, and the races of Middle-earth, like,
Yeah.
you know, so the Lord of the Rings takes place in the Third Age of Middle-earth.
And that stuff's canon because he wrote it?
Oh, yeah. It's all, yeah. Shadow of Mordor is so not canon. Like, right? I mean, it's
but it references it a lot.
Yeah.
And like Lord of the Rings is a page at the end of the Silmarillion. So, and like the entire geography and a lot of the structures and people and so on are largely gone from the Third Age. And the Silmarillion is mostly focused on the First Age.
Oh, so Lord of the Rings is like it's just a small footnote at the end of this other huge story.
But, you know, like I said, Sauron was the big bad dude, Melkor's lieutenant. And when Melkor finally gets defeated, Sauron takes over. So it's kind of like Mordor, where you kill the dude and then his lieutenant steps up and replaces him.
Yeah, it's all The Wire.
I'm excited that you get to go to the woods.
All the pieces matter.
Yeah.
You go to the woods next.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice change because I mean I have like 25 hours of this
I'm sick of
blasted
it.
lands
Yeah.
look. I can't take it. So I'm glad they found a
That's
way
why
to.
this game reviewed so well.
It's
Just
true.
The second
It does.
half was better than the first half.
It does lend itself to being. I think it probably lends itself to being reviewed well because
the perfect
you pick
review,
it
yeah.
up and you start playing and you're like, this game's fucking rad as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the longer I play it, the maybe slightly less rad I think it is. But right off the bat, I mean, there's nothing not to like.
I had a dip, and now it's kind of back up again.
Yeah, it's
I had one thing that I didn't like right off the bat, and that was a constant problem throughout the game, and that's that I think that it just is so tropey in its treatment of women, like women,
Oh.
you know, like every major male character in that game, except for the dwarf guy. Their wife is either murdered or kidnapped and needs to be rescued. It's just like constantly, and it just happens like again and again, and it's like, oh my god, come on.
That's true. I was, at one point I was thinking to myself, I'm like, been around a lot of these orc camps. Are they like hermaphroditic? Can they how do they reproduce? Because I don't see any women orcs around anywhere.
They're like grown in vats, at least in the I'm pretty sure I heard vats mentioned in chatter.
I love vats.
Oh, vats would
Shadow
be
of
so
War.
cool in this game.
I actually that's certainly kind of
Headshot, 52%.
That's how it is in like the Peter Jackson films. You kind of see the Uruk-hai. Saruman has those pods that they tear themselves out of.
Yeah.
So it is a very just asexual kind of.
Okay.
It has something to do with fusing the essence of. There's elf essence and. Anyway, it's like twisted, corrupted elf essence is used in the creation.
They are no longer born; they are grown.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, in the Silmarillion, it's said that the orcs are twisted, kidnapped elves.
Yeah.
I don't know how the bad guys took the elves and made them spawn billions of them. It's never really explained.
Oh God, is Peter Jackson going to make movies out of that thing too?
I hope so. That would be way better than The Hobbit.
The Hobbit sucks.
I saw that the Desolation of
Smaug.
Smaug was is on HBO or one of the movie channels on demand. I'm like, well, now that I can just watch it on demand for free, maybe I'll check it out. And I saw that it was 160 minutes or something. I was like, never mind.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Well, I mean, the Lord of the Rings films were that long, and I think
those are rad.
were great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, but this is the second almost 3 hour long movie of a
book that's shorter than the
it
shortest Lord of the Rings.
Right.
book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he tried to epic those things out, and I don't get it. But
Yeah, well, the Silmarillion could be epicked out very easily because
It's
just
so dense.
It's the bare bones of
Yeah.
the history of something that's.
It's so dense with information.
well, I think it's been an excellent show. I think
I learned a lot about the Lord of
I
the
learned
Rings.
a lot about Lord of the Rings. I learned a lot about
Get on the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Halloween and what Halloween really means. And it means
And
breaking
about
the
this-
fourth wall in video games.
The size of Ethan Carter.
The size of Ethan Carter is subjectively not Skyrim. We can all agree.
Subjectively.
Subjectively
That's a
not
subjective-
Skyrim.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is Skyrim to some, Skyrim and not Skyrim to others.
That's right.
Um,
It's a Rorschach Skyrim.
this is what
Miniature Nordic flags for all.
I think it's the most heated debate about a game we were all lukewarm on we've ever had.
That is correct.
Send us an email, joshandjayshow@unwinnable.com.
We want to thank our guest Carolyn Petit for joining
Yes,
us.
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. That was really, really awesome.
That was an awesome show. We'd love to have
Yeah.
you on again sometime.
Oh, great.
Absolutely.
I'd love to be back.
Catch us at Josh and Jay Show, at Joshua Doan, at Jay Pullman, at Rowan Kaiser.
What are we talking about?
Twitter.
Carolyn Michelle.
At Carolyn Michelle.
Anything
yes.
you want to pimp? This comes out on Tuesday.
I have no idea what the hell I'm doing right now.
Okay.
So thank you, though.
Sounds good. You're in good company, then.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We will catch you next time.